Hello and welcome to Talking Bengals. This is our third episode, and we are very excited to bring you the latest topics from all around the NFL, but most specifically, the only team that we really care about, the Cincinnati Bengals. So this week, as always, I am joined by Nick, the Hula Man Houlihan, but we also are going to figure out if two Houlahans are better than one. We have his older brother John here to also give his opinions. John, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Doing good, Casey. How you doing?
Well, I can't complain. It's Monday, but this is becoming my favorite day of the week because I get to hang out with you guys. So let's move right into the first topic of the evening. Everybody's favorite game of the year, the Pro Bowl. Nick, we'll let you start off with your thoughts on the Pro Bowl.
The Pro Bowl is a bunch of crap. To put it before the Super Bowl is ruining the essence of the tradition of having the Pro Bowl at the end of the season. So that way the truly best players of the league can be in the game to showcase the best players of the league. That's pretty much all I got to say about that. I'll let John go into it.
I couldn't agree with you anymore, Nick. The Pro Bowl is just a disgrace. I don't even know how they. I mean, who comes up with this? Let's just play flag football. You know what I mean? This is terrible. What do you think about it, Casey?
Well, actually, the flag football game at halftime was much more interesting than the Pro Bowl. I at least enjoyed watching the teenagers because they seemed to give a crap, unlike Geno Atkins, who was standing up on half the plays when he was in the ball game. And I did think a funny article I read today about how Andy Dalton showcased how he belonged in the elite quarterback group. Well, he got sacked 4 times last night, it seemed like. So I don't really understand him playing any better, whether his line is a bunch of Pro Bowlers or whether his line is the garbage we deal with all season. But as far as the Pro Bowl in a whole, at least they actually got rid of the stupid fantasy draft. That was terrible last year. I know Nick's probably got something funny to say about the fantasy draft.
Something funny. I'm not really that much of a jokester, but I mean, fantasy drafts are just that. They're fantasy. You don't really get the best players that you really want. I mean, AFC versus NFC is obviously the best way to run the Pro Bowl. When you run the Pro Bowl, you know, this year the way they had it, the winning team gets more money than the losing team. Obviously, I think that's a great incentive to actually put on a decent game to allow the fans to actually enjoy seeing the best players of the league come together and play together.
So do you believe that them making the Pro Bowl more like the baseball All-Star game will actually help bring fans back into the game? John, what do you think?
I really don't. I think the Pro Bowl just sucks. I mean, it's not even a football game as far as football is concerned. It's just I mean, they might as well just put skirts on them and let them run around in lingerie. I don't know. I think we just need to call it off, maybe have a big party and, have a good time.
Well, I feel like we've definitely just run the Pro Bowl right into the ground, but I don't think anything that's negative about what we said because it's very accurate. Honesty is always the best policy. So probably the biggest news coming out of the Bengals camp this week, at least, was Randy Bullock has now been signed to a 2-year contract. This just comes like a few days after I listened to the special teams coach say that, oh, we're going to wait and feel out our options. We're not going to give him just the job to begin with. But a 2-year contract sounds like it's pretty solid. John, what do you think?
I absolutely hated this signing. I mean, he's a kicker for the love of God. Why are we wasting any money on a kicker? I mean, we've had to live with Nugent for the last however many years, breaking our hearts. It just reeks of Mike Brown being Mike Brown. We could bring in any college free agent and for nothing and do way better than Randy Bullock. What do you think about him, Nick?
Well, as I don't know, experiencing the role of being a place kicker, I know how difficult it is to actually kick the ball with people coming at you. I mean, you can kick a 40-yard field goal all day long with nobody coming at you trying to block it. But when you get that adrenaline coming in and you get that feeling that you're a little bit rushed, having somebody who's not back there that can handle the pressure of being able to kick with people coming at them, like what John was saying, he's making a good point. You can get a good, solid kicker out of college, a good senior coming out of college that's going to be going into the pros, that's going to be a free agent because he's going to be undrafted. You're going to get a good, solid kicker. You're going to get a good, solid player that wants to show himself in the league. I think the Bengals could actually be a good starting point for a lot of the kickers that are coming out of college that need a place. Or, I mean, would it be crazy to go try to pick up a soccer player that's not in season at that point in time to say, hey, what do you think about kicking a football and making a couple $1,000s?
Ocho Cinco. Ocho Cinco. No, I'm just kidding. We talked about that last week, bringing Chad Johnson back as the Bengals place kicker. And, I mean, he made a kick, and I think we talked about 09. So it could be worse. I mean, Chad Johnson could miss, just as many kicks as Mike Nugent. But talking about missed kicks, Randy Bullock only missed one kick. Unfortunately, that's the only kick that anyone remembers of his entire stint with the Bengals. You can't miss the one that's going to win the game and make the ones that don't matter. You got to be able to make kicks under pressure in the NFL. That's your one job. You literally have one job. Nobody cares about your kickoffs. Nobody cares about anything else. They care about you putting the ball through the uprights with the game on the line. So moving on to an even more interesting Mike Brown type subject, Marvin Lewis is talking about a contract extension? Are you kidding? Oh, go for it, Nick.
First of all, why? Why? Marvin Lewis and Brown they both need to get out of town. They need to leave while they still have a chance to just leave, and nobody be mad about them leaving or staying. I mean, right now people are just ready for something different. That we need new ownership. We need a new head coach. Having Lewis here is just it's detrimental to the team. He's not bringing the guys together, and he said it himself. That's pretty much all you can say about that.
John, you got anything you'd like to add?
I'm really the ultimate Marvin apologist, I feel. I remember the 2000s like it was yesterday, and the pain and misery and suffering, and I can never get that out of my mind, and Marvin changed all of that. I just think it would be a terrible mistake to let him go. It's ideally, he would transfer into a GM sort of role, advisor to the president or something next year after we win the Super Bowl this coming year. That's a pipe dream, and I've been wishing that for years, but I don't know. I don't. It's one of those be careful what you wish for situations, because there's all kinds of bad coaches out there that could really take us back a long, long ways, and I'm not ready to do that.
I mean, I agree with you saying that Marvin has done a lot for the team, because he really has. We were a garbage team before he took over. But kind of defending that he may not be the only answer, Mike Brown had only hired one other head coach from outside the organization who was not an assistant coach, and that was Dave Shula. Terrible coach. Those were some of the worst years in the early 90s. And then they promoted Bruce Coslett from offensive coordinator. Then they promoted Dick LeBeau from defensive coordinator. And then all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, this Marvin Lewis guy comes in. And he did turn this team around. He's done a lot of great things. But I feel like if you just keep letting him hang around, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting what you always got. And as far as him being a GM, unfortunately, the Brown family keeps that very tight-knit. We're mostly family members. They don't want to get a whole lot of outside people involved. So, I mean, unfortunately, we need to move past Marvin Lewis. We need to get somebody in here, some fresh blood, but do it smart. Don't just bring in, some willy-nilly guy and be like the Browns, and every other season we're getting a new head coach. Get another person that we think can actually motivate this team while we still have a good team that's a contender. And we just need to move forward. And unfortunately, I don't think Marvin Lewis is going to get it done. I think next season, if he doesn't go to the playoffs and at least win a playoff game, he's going to be gone. But worst of that, I think if we have another bad season like we did this season, we're going to be back to the brown bags over people's heads at games, which I know we all remember that, and that was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I remember specifically going to Riverfront Stadium and watching the Packers come in. We were sitting, however 4 or 5 rows back from the front, and had the tarp sitting in front of us, and we
First
had
row.
we had the whole group. We had the whole group around us, just so mad about the entire game, just how frustrated we were back in the '90s about how everything was going. And it continued into the 2000s till Marvin came in. I definitely agree with John that, he did bring back winning to the Bengals, but at the same time, he's not bringing back the type of winning that we need. You have talent. We all know that the Bengals have a crap ton of talent, especially in the receiver slots. We have, at least good enough running backs. We have a quarterback who can throw the ball, who can call plays and hand the ball off to good running backs and get the ball to the good wideouts. We just need a head coach to step up, grow a pair, and say, look, guys, this is what we need to do, and we're going to do it. And I mean, you look at the players that have been getting in trouble, and it's something that's been going on. That's something that we're going to talk about later, but we'll get to that later. John?
I hear what you all are saying, but if we were really going to move on from Marvin, why wouldn't we have done it last year and kept Hugh Jackson around? I mean, there's no doubt that he's the best coach on the team, Marvin included. So I don't know. I don't see it happening. In the way that the Bengals operate is that they always stay loyal as long as they possibly can to their head coaches and whatnot. I mean, it almost took an act of Congress to get Dave Shula to get out of here. So I just don't see it happening. The next coach is definitely not on this team. I mean, there's no way that. I mean, we really need to think about a new offensive coordinator personally before we start thinking about sacking Marvin and maybe trying to get the offensive line to block somebody. That would make Marvin look a lot better. I think everybody's overreacting a little bit on Marvin.
Well, we shall definitely see in this year coming. We know for sure he's not going to be fired because Mike Brown doesn't fire people that he still has to pay money to. But now that we're all depressed and upset about the coaching situation, let's move on to a little bit happier of a topic. So we put out there to Nick earlier this week, who kind of shafted you a little bit, John. So you're going to have to think on your feet and be quick. Out of the last 20 years, there's 3 receivers for the Bengals that really come to mind, and we're going to debate who we think is the overall best receiver. Who would we want to build a receiving core around? Is that Carl Pickens, Chad Johnson, or A.J. Green? John, I'll let you take it first.
I don't even think this is a debate. It's AJ Green and everybody else. I mean, he's on a different level than all these other guys. He's so much bigger and faster and more precise. Guy makes catches that, only Calvin Johnson can make. It's just not even a debate. Plus, with his work ethic, he's always the first one in line, always the last one in line. I mean, he's just an incredible lead by example individual. Plus, he's not the cancer that Chad was, or Carl Pickens for that matter. He was just a disaster. So it's AJ Green for me all the way.
Some technical difficulties. Nick, you want to step up?
I don't know about you, but I heard him. I agree with John with AJ Green. I mean, Casey, you and I, we both loved Carl Pickens growing up, and the type of receptions he would have in the end zone, in the corner, and we had our Pickens play growing up. That's pretty cool. But John makes a great point. Chad Johnson, he was a great receiver. He could cut on a dime, could stop on a dime. He can make catches and look spectacular and everything. But when it comes down to it, AJ Green is the type of guy that you want to build your receiving core around. He's the type of guy that comes in, works hard, shows up. I mean, he comes in and shows up every day for work. And as I've said the past 2 episodes, I love somebody who comes in, works their butt off. I'm not a fan of lazy, and AJ Green doesn't come in and he's not lazy. And I don't think he has a lazy bone in his body, and I love it. I love seeing that type of work ethic. I hope he's healthy this upcoming year, and I hope he stays healthy, because I think if AJ Green is healthy for the 2017 season, I think the Bengals with Andy Dalton, as long as we can build a decent receiving core around AJ Green, and as long as we can have a decent defense coming in, I think the Bengals have a pretty good chance of at least winning a couple games into the playoffs, if not going in and taking the entire thing for the Super Bowl. But definitely AJ Green. As much as it pains me to take out Carl Pickens out of that, I still have to go with AJ Green. I agree with John. Casey?
Well, you can't really argue with AJ Green. I'm going to make a debate here in a minute, but we can't really argue. AJ Green was such a breath of fresh air with how Chad Johnson left the team. It was just, it was demoralizing. It got ugly. The whole TO cancer issue, or they just killed the locker room. They killed a team that had a lot of potential. So, I mean, I love Chad, great entertainer, great receiver, but he put TV in front of, the game. He put other silliness in front of the game. He really could have probably been one of the best receivers to have ever played the game if he would have actually focused on football and stopped focusing on all the other silly nuances and dance shows and what girl he wants to date and all that other garbage. But like you guys have already mentioned, so I'm not going to jump on it too much. AJ Green is just a great professional and such a great talent. And he doesn't go over the top. Yeah, sometimes, he may pound his chest a little bit, but you like that in an athlete. You don't want them to be too timid, but he's the perfect amount. I wouldn't even say cocky. I'd say he just has swagger. And he can just make things happen. And when he's on the field, other people can make plays because you have to account for AJ Green with at least two defenders. If you try to go one-on-one with him, he's going to beat you. I don't care who you put up against him. He's going to beat him. So we're going to take AJ Green out of the argument, and we're going to throw somebody else in there. So we're going to have Carl Pickens, Chad Johnson, or TJ Hushmanzada. Nick, go.
You already know I love Hoosh, man. I love the guy. He'd go across the middle and catch a ball, get hit so hard you wouldn't be able to keep his helmet on him, and he'd still have the ball in his hands. It was remarkable. I've seen that man get hit so hard so many times and still hold on to the ball. I love Hoosh. I'm still going to pick Hushmanzada over Chad Johnson any day, because you have that work ethic. You have that guy who wants to go out there and perform hard. And he's someone that you could build a team around. It's somebody that you can say, hey, look, this is the guy that you want to be like. This is the guy you want to go out. You want to work hard like him. You want to be able to take a hit and give a hit, and you want to be able to play for the team. And that's what a good teammate does. And they build up the rest of the team around them. They don't put everybody else down. And Chad Johnson was, he was the circus. He was a circus, man. He was the type of guy that wanted to go out there and have all the cameras on him, not the cameras on the team, but the cameras on him. And not being a teammate really, really hurt him in the locker room. So, of course, TJ Hushmanzada, the man.
John, what do you think in this revised debate?
I hate to agree with my brother so much, but I have
Man, we brought you on
fond,
another head opinion. Jeez.
I know, such fond memories of Hushmanzada. It's, if you're looking for just the dynamic receiver, I mean, you got to go with Chad, but all the extras, all the drama, it just isn't worth it for me. I'm more of a, put the hard hat on and take your lunch to work and, see what happens. And that was Hushmanzada.
All right, so I am going against both of you on this one. I'm going Carl Pickens all the way. He is maybe it's just my nostalgia, but he is the guy that really made me a football fan. Just watching him go out there, catch 3 touchdowns against the Falcons in '96 with Jeff Blake as your quarterback, which is a great accomplishment to be the leading receiver in the AFC with Jeff Blake as your quarterback. You make a lot of great catches. Go ahead.
Sorry, it also looks really good when your quarterback can't see over the lineman.
Yeah, that does help, but I mean, just some of the plays he could make, and like Nick said earlier, that Pickens play, we run the backyard, that little back corner fade. Nobody else did it better than him. He would not miss those. He could just make plays, and on a team that was just absolute garbage for so many years, he was a bright spot. He was a Pro Bowler. He was a skill player that actually led the AFC, and I think he was second in the NFL 2 years in a row, 96, 97, or 95, 96, where he was the second leading receiver in the entire NFL on a team that couldn't even get a winning record. So he was the team. He was the guy that brought everybody to the games because Kajana Carter wasn't doing it. Jeff Blake wasn't doing it. Who else is on there? I mean, I love the team at that point. I can still barely name anybody on there. I mean, Eric Bieniemy and some other people, and that's about it. Carl Pickens is the only name that really stands out for me about the Bengals in the mid-90s. It's Carl Pickens, and then there's nobody else. So, yes, Hushmanzada, a great athlete, great work ethic. Chad Johnson, immense talent. Love watching. Big Chad fan, but too much garbage goes with him. But if you're talking about a guy who defines the Cincinnati Bengals in the 90s as a bright spot, it would have to be Carl Pickens.
Casey, I agree with you about the 90s. Okay, I agree that Carl Pickens was definitely the bright spot. He definitely made any Bengals fan, especially kids, want to be a receiver and want to catch those passes in the corner of the end zone and, you know, show off these great hands to be able to catch anything thrown to them, and to have a quarterback like Jeff Blake throwing the ball to you and being able to make Jeff Blake look halfway decent the way that he did. I definitely agree with you that he is a good receiver. Definitely agree with you, but I don't know. I'd pick Hushmanzada any day over the three that were given, mostly because his work ethic and, you know, he's the type of leader that you want to be your number one receiver to show the ropes, at least to the young guys as well. So that way you can have a future. You also have a current, present, good receiving core, especially around Hushmanzada. John, you have anything else?
Yeah, Casey, I think you also are forgetting about Darnay Scott. He was actually quite a bright spot on those teams with Blake and Pickens. He had the deep ball going for him, that's for sure. So I don't know. I just Carl Pickens always rubbed me the wrong way. He seems like a big jerk. I think him and Chad probably share an island somewhere. So I'm still sticking with Hoosh.
Yeah, no disrespect, Darnay Scott, great player. I will agree. The way Pickens left Cincinnati is very reminiscent of how Corey Dillon or Chad Johnson got booted. So maybe they all three on an island somewhere. I don't know. But moving on to our favorite segment of the show, Roast It or Boast It. First topic up this week is going to be, will Andrew Whitworth re-sign this week? So, John, are you going to roast that or boast it?
I'm boasting it. There's no way that Whitworth goes somewhere else. We are completely lost without him in the locker room and on the field. It is, whatever the man wants, just go ahead and give it to him because he's worth it. He's earned every penny.
100% agree, Casey. I'm sorry, I'm going to talk over you. I love Andrew Whitworth. I think he's probably the best lineman that the Bengals have had in a long time. He's a leader not only on the field but in the locker room and off the field. He speaks leadership. He acts leadership. He is the embodiment of leadership for the Bengals. And to have that on your team, absolutely priceless. Absolutely. And like John said, whatever he wants, just give it to him. Because to have him not be on our team anymore, we don't have a line, we don't have a leader.
So you definitely got to boast that. I mean, without him on the team, you don't have a tackle. Not just a left tackle. You don't have any tackle. He is the only tackle on that team. And not only that, we don't want to run – I don't think the Bengals want to run into another Willie Anderson situation. A guy that broke his back for you year after year after year and was a perennial Pro Bowler or All-Star, whatever the heck you want to call him, because we talked about how garbage the Pro Bowl is, but, a top-class athlete, and then you just throw him to the side because he's getting a little bit older. He's still the best tackle on this team. He is a great leader. He is a great league ambassador. I mean, you keep Eric Winston around because he's the president of NFLPA. You can't let an actual talented guy walk away and keep that kind of garbage on the team. So Andrew Whitworth needs to remain a Bengal, and I boasted that he will still be a Bengal. here next week, or hopefully he signs this week. If he doesn't sign this week, in the next couple of weeks for sure. So moving on to Nick's favorite hot topic issue. Adam Jones will be cut by the end of February. Roaster, boast it, and Nick, take it away.
I'm going to say roast it because he should already be cut. There's no way Adam Jones should be a Bengal. There's no way Adam Jones should be in the NFL. I'm sorry, but you're putting these guys out there. You're paying them thousands, sometimes millions of dollars to be a professional athlete, to be a role model to kids, and to be an example out on the field. What are you paying this man for? You're paying for off-field antics, like getting arrested, hitting a cop, spitting on the deputy jailer. What are you paying for? You're paying for off-field antics that are just awful. The guy's not any type of a professional. You're paying him millions of dollars to just show his backside. That's all he's doing is just showing his backside. And it's frustrating to see someone like that take advantage of a situation where he's getting money and he knows that no matter what he does, he's going to get paid. That frustrates me to the end of the earth. And I'm just, I don't even want to get started on the rest of it. Just roast it. He needs to be gone.
So you're saying he should be gone before February?
He should have been gone when he was arrested.
All right, John, we'll let you continue on the topic.
I'm gonna go ahead and boast this for a couple different reasons here. Number one, I think it's something like 10 strikes and you're out, right? For Pac-Man. I mean, when enough is enough, he's just got to go. The Bengals are obviously doing their due diligence here. I think I was reading. I think the numbers are something like $6 million against the cap if they cut him before the new league year. And, they'll end up only owing him like $1 million or something. They'll only have like $1 million and something in dead money. And quite honestly, we need that money to re-sign Kevin Zeitler and possibly kill Kirkpatrick. So there's just no doubt in my mind that he's gone. It's just a matter of time. I can understand why Nick wants him gone so soon. He's, all up in arms about the violence and everything. And I think everybody in the town is just sick of it. And, if we want to keep Marvin's got to step up and, say, let's get rid of this guy because it's way past time.
No, I definitely agree. I'm boasting it. He is going to be gone very soon, but I'm with John on this. You got to wait until it's the best time. You don't want to take a big hit when you don't have to. And I just feel like, I heard something interesting. I was listening to a different Bengals podcast, and they were talking about, well, he's 33 years old, and, you don't expect this from a 33-year-old, maybe a 27, 28-year-old, but not a 33-year-old. So I just wanted to go on a quick tangent about that. To me, if you are 27 or 28 years old, you are a grown man by at least 70 years. You need to grow up. So you should not be acting like this at any age that you can play in the NFL. That is all kid stuff. So especially being a 33-year-old, you have no excuses. You should know better in your life. And the thing is, you're making millions of dollars. Can't you just pay a really big guy to pick you up and take you home at the end of the night? Like, hey, I'm being really stupid. This guy should just pick me up, put his hand over my mouth, and put me in a car. That could solve a lot of problems for the NFL right there. But these people just don't use their heads. And it happens all over the NFL. You got Johnny Manziel acting like an idiot. You got Pac-Man Jones acting like an idiot. You got all kinds of people just acting like idiots. This is an easily solvable problem. Just be mature. Be an adult. I had one of the people that worked with me cracked me up. He used to have a phrase every time someone would do something stupid, and they'd be like, well, this person is, they're not that old, but they're grown. If you're over the age of 18, you should know better.
Pac-Man Jones has shown in the past, he has shown in the present, and if he were to stay by some long shot, he will show in the future that he is a cancer to this team and it needs to be cut. You cut the tumor out to remove the cancer. You don't leave it there and let it grow. All this will do is make the rest of the team be brought down. Adam Jones will continue to bring the team down. Exactly what Chad Johnson did with his antics. Adam Jones is going to do that, but worse, because what Adam Jones is doing is criminal on top of very poor judgment, on top of he should know better after his 12th time. John?
Personally, I always give I give them the age of 25. Anything you do up until that point, you're just young and dumb, and you're just prone to make really bad decisions, but not 30. Once you're 30, you're old, you are what you are. And I mean, I got no more sympathy left for the man. He's a criminal, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
We got a lot of ups and downs on this show. We're going sad topic, happy topic, sad topic, happy topic. So now we're going back into the lighthearted issue, and this is one that strikes great debate across the tri-state area. This probably causes more unrest than when people say Joey Votto is not the best first baseman in baseball. We're going to make the argument, which one's better, roasted or boasted? So you got to roast one and boast one. Gold Star chili or Skyline chili? John?
Once again, there is no debate. We're boasting Skyline, roasting Gold Star. It's just no comparison. It never has been. You can get Gold Star almost anywhere, but Skyline is only in the Natty.
What's up with not leaving in Dixie chili, Casey? I love Dixie chili, but Skyline definitely boasting the Skyline, and Gold Star just, I don't know. I haven't really found a Gold Star that I've liked. Skyline all the way.
Man, I got to stop being outnumbered by houlihan's here. They keep Skyline in the nasty natty because it's nasty. Gold Star has branched out to so many great places. I got Gold Star in Clearwater Beach. I mean, I'm a Gold Star guy. I always have been. The Skyline, to me, it's just watered down. It just doesn't taste quite as good as Gold Star. And you know what? If Skyline tasted better, they would branch outside of greater Cincinnati area. But Gold Star all the way. Roast or boasting Gold Star, roasting Skyline. Dixie chili is a good third option, but we can't keep giving you options, Nick. You always take a crazy random one.
Hey, Dixie chili, Cincinnati chili, they're all really good. I'll pretty much eat any chili, but if I had to prefer one, it'd be Skyline definitely over Gold Star. I don't know what you're talking about the whole Clearwater stuff. Your beach crap can get out of here. Casey, I got a question for you. Going back to the 90s, you're talking about people that were memorable. Talking about a good kicker. Do you remember such a good kicker back in the 90s for the Bengals? Someone who was very, very viable that if we had him today, I'd be very grateful.
Oh, of course, Doug Pelfrey. He was actually the most accurate kicker in NFL history during the season of 1996 until he fell off in about 2000, 2000, like right after the new stadium opened, and it had that awful grass there at Paul Brown to begin with. But Doug Pelfrey is just such a great guy. He did so many great things for the Cincinnati area. He had kicks for kids to benefit underprivileged children. And he was a class act kicker. I mean, you're talking about another guy who was a bright spot. You're right there. I keep putting people down saying only Carl Pickens. I said I'm very biased when it comes to Carl Pickens. He was my favorite player as a kid growing up. But Doug Pelfrey was just an outstanding kicker. He did a lot of great things. And unfortunately, when he moved from, the AstroTurf of the old Riverfront/Synergy Field to the really thick, terrible grass that had no footing, that was the original Paul Brown Stadium surface, he just had issues, and then they decided to bring in a young guy named Neil Rackers, who was a gigantic mistake. John, I know you got something to say about Pelfrey and Rackers.
Neil Rackers. I love Neil Rackers only because my drunk friends in college would always say weird things about Neil Rackers. It's kind of like a Bill Brasky at the time. No, but Doug Pelfrey was a great guy. He definitely has done tons for the community. I remember seeing him all the time up at Thomas More during the summers. So it was good times. He was a good guy.
Loved Doug Pelfrey. Man, you could just not get enough of that man. What a terrific man to be, not only in a leadership role, but also to be just that genuinely good of a person. Casey, I think we have one more roasted or boasted. I don't know. The list you gave me is kind of weird.
Well, actually, I left you a question mark on there so you could create a topic. So, Nick, off the top of your head, or John, if you got something, one more roasted or boasted topic, and go.
I have a good one. Are we going to roast or boast either Cedric Ogbuehi or what's his name? I can't remember. Eric or Jake Fisher for right tackle next year. What do you think their case?
Oh, Fisher all the way. Boy, he will not play tackle again unless the Bengals just want to give up completely on next season. Nick and I talked about it, I think, in episode 1, where they should definitely make Ogbuehi a guard. Try to move him inside. He's still young enough in his NFL career. He can maybe shift inside and have some hope for a decent NFL career. But putting him on right tackle, left tackle, any tackle, he couldn't keep up with the defensive ends. He was just getting blown by. Like he wasn't even there. No matter who was lined up against him, they're just blowing right past him. So, no hope. You got to roast him. Fisher, I saw a few things I liked. I mean, he was still young, and I think, why they put him out there to catch a pass to fumble it, I don't understand. I like, the idea of something good, but that's kind of an end zone play, not really a middle of the field play because he's not going to make a play with his legs. So Fisher, I think he's got some potential, and he could be our right tackle next year. Nick, what do you think?
I agree with you totally. But, I mean, come on. You got to give the tackle some love here. I mean, you gave Whitworth some love a couple seasons ago with the touchdown. You might as well give Fisher a little love out in the middle of the field, see if he can make a play. But definitely boasting Fisher. He's just subpar. He's not good enough to make it in the NFL as a tackle. He's getting blown by. Fisher, same thing. I think Fisher's good enough, possibly to move to a guard as well. But I would say that they both need to be moved into a guard position, just simply because you fill a bigger space as a guard to get the one technique, or to get a blitzing linebacker coming through the middle. I think that's an easier position to play, and just being younger, you have better knees, and you're able to pull around a little bit better. Maybe kick out a defensive end on a counter play or something like that. But definitely boasting on Fisher. Casey.
Back to John.
I think you guys are missing a real key point here on Cedric, that this past season, he's only 1 year removed from that knee operation for his ACL. I mean, we saw it with Geno Atkins 2 years ago, how he just wasn't the same until 2 years after the operation. I think, these guys are coming back way too soon from these ACL injuries, and they just lack the explosiveness that they have as athletes. And I really look forward to seeing Cedric really show what he's got this next season. I think it's going to be a big change. I think it's a lot closer than you two think it is. So I'm going to boast Cedric and roast Fisher.
In true brother fashion, we disagree. Couldn't be happier.
I think
it all feels normal again.
Yeah, I think it's the first time you two have disagreed tonight. So it's kind of nice that I'm not on my own island by myself for once. I got Nick with me at least. But no, I see where your point's coming from, John. I mean, he definitely, coming back from any kind of knee injury, no matter how much they say it's, it's a condensed timeline now. They're going to be fine. It's proven, it may take a while. That's what worries me about Gio Bernard coming back this season. He may not quite be that guy that we want him to be, especially since his whole game plan is being explosive. But we'll save that for another episode. We're going to move away from roasted or boasted and move on into around the league. And a big issue that's been coming up already, talking about the draft, which Nick knows how much I loathe mock drafts and talking about the draft, because when it happens, it happens. But the moral compass issues with the NFL. You have Joe Mixon, the whole issue with him at Oklahoma, and, for lack of any other way to put it, punching a woman in the face as hard as he could and knocking her to the ground. Pretty rough stuff. So that makes you wonder, what kind of character does this young man have? But John, I'll let you talk it off. Should he be drafted, and is it someone the Bengals should look to draft?
Well, I don't think that they should go that route. And under Marvin, under the last reboot, they really haven't gone after that type of player any longer. Pac-Man's really the one trouble spot we've had since the new reboot. And I can't condone that type of activity. And I don't see anybody taking a real big shot on Mixon. He's probably going to get picked somewhere in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. But once something comes out in the media like that, this person is just cancer. You can't take them. They get Ray Rice right out of the league. Any little problem. I think Randy Gregory right now is having that issue in Dallas with smoking dope too much. I think he's going on a 1-year suspension. Who's going to want to waste a high pick on somebody that's just going to, get suspended for years? It doesn't make any sense to me. What do you think, Nick?
I think that when you have any kind of violence towards females in general, as a professional athlete for football players, you're drafting players, you're looking at players who obviously have a high testosterone level, who have, more than likely have some anger issues, especially when you're talking about linebackers, running backs, any type of defensive player. When you're looking at somebody who is amped up on adrenaline pretty much all week long at practice, and then on the weekends in their games, you're looking at somebody who has a lot of testosterone running through their blood, and you get Joe Mixon into the mix, and you get him hitting a female like that off the field. You got to have somebody who can control themselves. You got to have somebody who can control that adrenaline rush and use it for the good. You run the risk of having another Pac-Man on your team. I think the Bengals won't even come close to drafting them. I think the Bengals have done a really good job in the last couple of drafts of not drafting bad personalities and bad characteristics in players. They did a really good job with Geno Atkins. I think he's actually shown a very good work ethic, especially in the last year. I just think that Joe Mixon would be a cancer to our team. And I think that we've already got enough cancer as it is with Pac-Man. I don't think we need that. You have violence issues around the league completely. You have the Ray Rice, like what John was kind of hinting at, when you have Ray Rice knocking that girl out in the elevator. You have Adrian Peterson with his case. You have and then now you have Joe Mixon, and it happened in college, which is even worse because you're not even at the professional level yet. You're not even getting paid to do a job, well, on the books, and you run into the problem of you can't control your adrenaline rushes, you can't control yourself, you can't control your character and your integrity. That's all you have as a man or as a woman. Your integrity is all you got. And when you use it to create violence like that, it's just a problem. And I think he won't get drafted at all. I think he's going to be a big problem for any team he goes to. Casey?
Well, a couple things. One, you guys are forgetting the only other big problem kid for the Bengals, which is Vontaze Burfict. And he's had his issues, but unlike Pac-Man, I think Vontaze brings a lot more to the table, and he's actually if not the best, one of the best linebackers in the league. But I digress. Going back to the topic at hand, Mixon will probably be drafted. By the Bengals? No, I don't think so. But the NFL doesn't really seem to care about what somebody does if they can play the game, unless you're an older player. Like Ray Rice was really past his prime as a running back. They only get 3 to 4 years. Chad Johnson, he had an issue with his wife when he was getting ready to start his first season in Miami, and that domestic violence ended his career. When you're at the end, nobody really seems to care. But if you still have value, the NFL will turn a blind eye to whatever you're doing. And Tyreek Hill, the guy for the Chiefs, is one of the perfect examples of that. He got actually convicted of a felony, I think it was assault. Nick, you might have to back me up with what the crime actually is, but felony assault for choking his fiance. And he ended up getting drafted by the Chiefs, and Chiefs fans were angry. We're not going to back him up. We don't like this guy. He's a terrible scumbag. But all of a sudden he starts returning punts, and he starts returning kickoffs. And, he makes big plays. He gets first downs. And it seems like the fan base just forgot about all the terrible things he did. So it may not only be an NFL moral compass issue, it may be a fan moral compass issue. I think people lose sight of the fact that this is just a game. As much as I love the Bengals, and I am a diehard fan just like you two are, and I want them to win at almost any cost, it's just a game. And these people are not, they're not above the law, or they shouldn't be. They should be held to the same standard where if one of us made that mistake, we're going to jail. There's not even a fine. There's nothing. No, we're going to jail. That's the end of it. And these are people that are role models for our children. These are people that young kids around the country and even the world look up to. So just because this guy can run, at a 4.3 40 and score a lot of touchdowns, run over people, and, be an all-pro athlete, is that really the message you want to send to the country? Well, you run fast, you score touchdowns, you can get away with whatever you want. It's not a big deal. You're too important to let you go to jail.
Speaking on that domestic violence issue where Tyreek Hill strangled his girlfriend, depending on the level of strangulation in the state's statutes, it could be different. But that'd be something that I'd have to refer to. More than likely somebody who knows criminal law a little bit better than I do. I'd probably refer to either the county attorney or the Commonwealth prosecutor. But when you have domestic issues at the house, you have issues out on the street. You go out to a club like what Pac-Man does, and I'm just using Pac-Man as an example, just because what he's done is just so out there. You look at Tiger Woods, you look at the issues he had. It's not just in baseball, it's not in football, it's not just in golf, it's not in soccer, it's everywhere. And it's not the type of behavior that you need from people who are going to be the examples for not only our children, but also for the children of the world and for people of the world that look up and see these people and put them on a pedestal. And you're seeing these guys getting off, like what Casey was saying, getting off with pretty much like a slap on the wrist, where if any normal Joe Blow everyday citizen would do something like this, they'd be in jail. You'd be in jail for anywhere between 30 to 90 days just for slapping your domestic partner. If one of these guys did that, more than likely get a slap on the wrist and 3-game suspension and maybe get a fine of a 100th of their salary. It's not really a punishment to them. It's pretty much telling them that they can do whatever they want as long as they produce on the field. And that's not right. That's not right. Our moral compass is off, not only as, the players in the NFL or the MLB or the PGA or whatever you want to look at, we're starting to go south. And to see that is disheartening. To see that as a people is disheartening. When you put people that show violence towards others like that, especially, strangling your girlfriend or punching a cop or, hitting just some random person on the street for no reason. And then there's no repercussions for what your actions were. That's putting a bad example not only to your players but to the world who's watching. And what the commissioner, the NFL, the players union, what everybody's doing is they're providing a bad example.
Just sort of to piggyback on all this, that many years ago, when all this really started becoming an issue in the news anyway, I always thought would be cool if they would create a database to start tracking all of these arrests for each team. Well, now it's gotten to the point where it's so bad that we actually do have that for the NFL. So, I mean, I just think it shows where we are as a society that, this is allowed to happen. It's really disgraceful, in my opinion. It's not something that's going to change, though, because, money is always going to win out in the end.
And so now that we're back down in another valley, let's bring it back up the hill one more time and get into our closing thoughts. So, John, I'm going to lead off the closing thoughts, but also you missed out last week when Nick and I made our Super Bowl pick. So let's hear your Super Bowl pick and your final thoughts for this week.
Super Bowl pick. I am heavily rooting for Atlanta, as obviously anybody that would be a Bengals fan should be doing. My complete despise of the Patriots and everything all the cheating that they have done over the years. It's also disgraceful. However, the pick is clear. It's Patriots. They're going to cover the spread by a lot, and I kind of think somewhere in the 30 to 17 range. So I'd probably take the under with that as well. Final thoughts on the day. I just feel like next podcast we need to be a little more positive about free agents and upcoming draft picks, and there was a lot of negativity this week, Casey.
You got to bring people down. That's my mentality. You got to bring them down and then pick them back up next week with all these happy and free agent thoughts. But anyways, Nick, we'll let you go next.
Well, of course, you got to bring them down so you can build them up. I mean, that's pretty much everybody's mentality, isn't it? But I mean, my final thoughts. I mean, you have the Bengals who have, obviously tremendous talent at the younger generation, and you have players that can, and they do have the potential to be, really good NFL players. You're running into problems where you have certain players that are lazy. You have certain players that don't want to show up. You have certain players that don't show up for meetings. What needs to happen is repercussions for those players, fines, actual fines, repercussions that actually mean something to those players that are, missing practices, missing actual team meetings that are called by the players or called by the coaches. Showing up late is it's not excusable by any means. And when you run into problems like that, need to be addressed. I think the Patriots, they mostly successful because of that, also with their cheating. But I mean, going back on the Super Bowl picks that you had last week, my final thoughts is I hope Atlanta, pounds the Patriots to the ground. But like what John's saying, it's unfortunate, but I think New England will probably cover the spread more. But I still want to take Atlanta. Casey?
So I will stick with Atlanta as well. And I'm going to kind of kick you guys a quick question. Did either one of you go to the Reds Caravan at the mall when it concluded? I mean, it's right up the road from you. Did anybody go?
I didn't go. I
I
didn't
go either.
I mean, I didn't even know it happened, to be honest with you. To look at the news media and to get anything from the news media, they didn't even put it out that I even was aware. They did a poor job of media relations, I guess. It should have been all over Facebook. It should have been all over the news. It should have been, all over Twitter. It should have been everywhere. And I think the Reds needs to step up on their public relations as well.
As much as I love baseball and as much as I love the Reds, it's just not a real exciting time just quite yet. This is going to be a another down season. I think we're going to surprise a few folks, but my expectations have been tempered, so I'm not too into the Caravans just quite yet.
I would agree with that, and I would also really much agree with Nick because the Reds did some kind of event in Pensacola, which is only like 3 hours from me, and I was like, oh, I would love to go to that. Of course, I found out the day after. So, Reds PR people, you may want to start working on your advertising and get it out there a little bit early, when people can actually see it. So, my second off-topic comment that I want to make tonight: big congratulations going out to one of my former baseball players, Garrison Gray, who has verbally committed to Campbellsville University. So outstanding job, Garrison. Very proud of you. Do great things down there playing college baseball.
I would like to say something about Campbellsville University, by the way. They do have a great program, and he is going into a NAIA school who has a winning tradition. The coach down there knows what he's doing, and hopefully, God willing, he's successful down at Campbellsville. Hopefully he can get looked at from there for the pros. I know that a couple of the guys that I played against in NAIA, I know a couple of them were drafted. They weren't drafted in the big draft, but they were drafted, and they are actually doing pretty successfully right now in AA and AAA. And hopefully he can do well, and hopefully he'll stand out down there. So big shout out to your guy, man.
All right. So, with my actual final thoughts on important Bengals things, I listened to an interview earlier this week from Tyler Boyd, and I had not heard a whole lot from him this season. I had a lot of reservations after he dropped a few passes early in the season, and he had a solid performance this season. I'm not going to say he played bad by any means, but he didn't quite have a breakout rookie year like everybody was hoping he would. But it's hard to fill in for a guy like Marvin Jones, who didn't play great his rookie year either, but had a couple years to progress. But when you're replacing a guy like that, everyone expects you to perform like right now. They expect you to perform great yesterday. So listening to his interview, he's very level-headed. He's a very confident young man, and he almost seems like another AJ Green. I mean, he's not going to have the exact same kind of talent, but he's there to work. He's not there to be flashy. He wants to help the team. So I think putting him and AJ Green together is going to be a dynamite combination. It could even be better than AJ Green and Marvin Jones. It could actually end up being probably the best tandem since Chad Johnson and Houshmandzadeh. So I think it just means really great things are ahead for the Bengals. They're going to give AJ Green Andy Dalton, not AJ Green, Andy Dalton more targets to throw to, and they're bringing in classy players. So I will at least applaud them that they're not bringing in the garbage like we've mentioned earlier in the show. They're bringing in guys who want to contribute and go about it the right way and are class acts all the way around. Gentlemen, you got anything else you'd like to add tonight?
John, I'll let you go first.
I think I'm good. This was fun, fellas.
I had a good time tonight. It was definitely great talking about Carl Pickens and Houshmandzadeh, reminiscing on the good old days. I think you're right about Tyler Boyd Casey. Definitely a level-headed individual, somebody who's ready to work and somebody who's ready to come play. I think he's going to be a great asset this year. This upcoming season is going to be absolutely phenomenal to watch Tyler Boyd being healthy and watching AJ Green be healthy and be able to watch Andy Dalton to target those guys, and hopefully we can win a lot more games than we lose this year.
All righty. Well, John, thank you for joining us. We plan on having you back again soon. And for everybody listening, thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next week. Houday.